Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
Great, David. Just like we rehearsed, just right at the
Yeah.
start. I'm gonna tell you, it's not necessarily EV weather, but it's very cold. I will tell you one nice feature, and I shouldn't say it's inherent to all of them, but boy, like remote start or remote climate control, beautiful this time of year. Just sit there on my phone and say, I'm going to go to my car in about 10 minutes, heat up, turn the seat warmer on, turn the steering wheel warmer on, turn the defrost on, set it a nice 73. And every time, oh, it's wonderful. It's great.
Oh, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool feature. Yeah. When the temperature is hyphenated or when there's no temperature at all, when it's zero, it's that's got to be a big advantage. The I was going to tell you, I keep having something goofy happen at the start. I've changed up the start a couple times. Last week we had a hate on Elon day, and you never know what to see there. I wanted to talk about something that came to me, and this was kind of funny. I was telling you before we came on, we actually have some Nebraska news to a certain extent today. And some of this comes from stuff I had found, some news articles and other topics. I want to start out with this article I've got on Energy Expert reveals fantastic tool that makes solar panels unbelievably lucrative. You can think of it like a solar bank. It's a big benefit for homeowners, and it's called net metering. And I was just like, I have that. I have solar, I have net metering. And it starts going into how you as a solar, somebody with solar on your house can go into selling power back to the grid, or that they will bank it for you.
Yep.
And as you started explaining to me, it's actually a law here in Nebraska.
It is. So it's a state law. It got passed. I think I'm not going to know the number off the top of my head, but it's 25 kilowatts. So anything 25 kilowatts or below automatically qualifies for net metering. There's utility has a threshold, up to 1% or something like that. But otherwise, it automatically by law qualifies for it, and that is
I,
very, very common in other states
yeah,
as well.
I'm a 16 kilowatt
Yeah,
hour
there you go. So yeah,
solar. I got 32 panels.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, some places will do it different. Like Nebraska, I think it's the trend is to figure it out monthly, to kind of bank it out
Mhm.
and cash out monthly. Some places do it annually, which is really lucrative. It's a great bonus there in those places. But yeah, it's a law. It's not a new
Yeah.
it's not a new invention. Hey, what if we came up with this great idea to bank it? So if you overcharge during the day, you offset at night. Like, no, it's been on the books for a good 15, 20 years, I think.
I'm waiting for somebody to explain to me what a great idea vehicle to grid could be if somebody
Yeah.
knew how to do it,
What if,
kind of
what if
thing.
we what if we powered our cars with batteries? What
You're
about
right.
that?
Yeah. I'm just starting to you know, I don't know. Somebody obviously just discovered this.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody about importing what do you call it? Heat pump hot water heaters.
Mhm.
And he was telling me he was trying to evaluate whether he wanted to, start making his own brand of heat pump hot water heaters. And I was like, you do know that if you swap one of those, it saves the user about the same as owning an electric car.
Mhm.
And I
So
said
nice,
it's an
nice
offset.
combo right there.
It's
Yeah.
it's a perfect offset. And I said if everybody in the United States swap to an EV and swap to a heat pump hot water heater at the same time, you basically see kind of a zero sum effect
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
grid.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was like wow, it's like I didn't know that, and it's like yeah, but it has to do with the average amount of miles that an EV owner drives, and so the average amount of kilowatt hours an EV
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uses annually versus it was like 2,000 kilowatt hours. It saves a year
Yeah.
versus the same usage you would have charging your car.
That's
And
I love
so
I love things like that where it's win-win, right? I mean, it would make sense.
yeah, so
Yeah,
then
you
you're
got
basically driving the car for free, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, you made it up. But the net metering thing, it's one of the ways for like residential solar for it to really make sense. And it's because you offset not to get too deep into the weeds, but like retail rate electric use. So what you pay on your bill is about 10 cents, let's say on average 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So you get reimbursed at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Whereas what you might pay at like a utility rate, what the utility has to buy it back at, purpose standards or some things like that, it's at avoided cost, which is the cost they have to purchase it at market rate, which is more like 3 cents or 4 cents. So it's like a huge, I mean, it's a big deal. It's like a factor of 2 or 3 sometimes about the value you're getting of the energy produced by that thing. So yeah, it's great. I mean, it makes a ton of sense for a homeowner, small business, or somebody like that to put it on, because it really increases the value of the energy you're generating out of it, or excess generation, I should say.
Yeah, if you export more energy than you import, you'll be compensated at a rate specified in rate 483 net metering service rider. I'm looking right at the OPPD site, but I thought that was quite fascinating. It's like, I'm pretty sure I have, I
Mhm.
saw this, but this group is called Energy Sage, was trying
Oh,
to
really?
demonstrate how, yeah,
Energy Sage is normally a pretty good place. I mean, I've gotten a lot of good info from them over the years.
well, who knows? I guess maybe it's not, maybe Nebraska's a leader in this. I don't know.
We are
I
we
mean,
are not. I mean, I don't. There's a lot of people have these laws on the books. I think OPPD, actually I know OPPD. I think their number is 100 kilowatts. So they went up and above the state mandated requirement. And if you're anything below 100 kilowatts, you can qualify for net metering now.
yeah, I'd have to be Bitcoin mining or something from the
Yeah, that
house to
no.
be using that much. that, that would be a lot. But I just thought that was pretty cool because it's we don't get a lot of topics really about Tennessee necessarily. Now, but we're going to discuss this other one. So, your friend from OPPD sent me this article about Senator Deb Fisher from here in Nebraska, of all places, um, has this thing. It's called the Fisher's Fair Share Act. It's the Fair Sharing of Highways and Roads for Electric Vehicles Act. And she basically wants to charge EVs $1,000 a year for using the roads. And her explanation, and she goes really specifically to give examples. For example, the Ford F-150 Lightning weighs over 6,000 pounds. Yes, it weighs like 6,050 pounds or something like that. Um, whereas the F-150 internal combustion engine, this is according to her, weighs an average of 3,000 pounds. But that's not even remotely true. They've never weighed 3,000 pounds. If you took the engine out, they might weigh 3,000 pounds. Okay, the chassis itself might weigh 3,000 pounds. So these vehicles, the reason people buy the Ford F-150 and the Yukon and the Tahoe and the Suburban, and a lot of these, and you see business owners always driving these vehicles, because there's something called the Section 179 deduction and the IRS tax code that gives them the ability to write off that purchase if the vehicle weighs over 6,000 pounds. Okay, that's why you see so many F-150s, not
Specific.
Lightnings, the regular one. Now, off the lot, they're rated a full-size F-150 crew cab, or super cab, I should say, weighs 57 or 5,800 pounds. So they have to actually make it a little heavier to qualify for the
Put
deal. I
some
don't know if they
dumbbells
had
in the
like a
back.
tow
Yeah.
thing or a tow
Yeah.
package or something, but it does not weigh 3,000 pounds.
And
You're there.
yes, not even, and to say on average, that's
Yeah.
no. I
No,
mean,
she was trying to make it seem like an EV weighed twice as much. That's not true. At the actual difference is something like 5%
yeah,
at most. It's actually probably less than that. And then they try to give an example of a the Ford EV Mustang weighing 5,000 pounds, but a regular Ford Mustang weighs 3,500 pounds. They're not even the same car. I never figured out why they called the Mach E a Mustang, because one is a crossover and
yeah,
one is a sports car.
they're a different category. Yeah, they're a
Yeah,
different brand of car.
yeah. And the convertible Mustang weighs a lot more than 3,500 pounds.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to see this. I mean, I really am disappointed that a senator from Nebraska would not have researched this at least a little bit
To me,
before.
it's a Googleable fact. It's an AI. It's anything. You ask, what's an F-150 weigh? On
I
average,
mean, I just can't imagine this. I am so careful about not misquoting things, and you know how sometimes I'll make fun of a lot of these news articles, like I kind of was with the last one, because it was, you know,
yeah,
sort
some
of like you just
breakthrough.
discovered something
Yeah.
obvious, right? Yeah, but something like this is absolutely wrong. Shame on Deb Fisher for letting this go through. Somebody on her staff should have been able to catch this.
Yeah.
And that's really just inexcusable for them to try to convince people in Congress that
Well, and
this is the
there's a
case.
couple of things with the bill, and it's one. So if you're not from the state, you're not from around here. Nebraska's very very rural for most of the state, and this senator from the state is from the rural part of the state, and where it is, and it's one of those like talking about EVs, sharing the roadway in equal percentages. And I think there was even a quote in that article from a Wyoming senator who said they use the roads just as much as ICE vehicles. To go rural Nebraska, rural Wyoming. I have a hard time believing that at this point. Uh, but I think we've talked about it before. It is there is something at the heart of this, which is a lot of the dollars that come for road reinvestment, bridge repair, everything along that is generated through gas tax. It's tax you pay on gasoline, and if you're an EV, you don't pay that. So on the surface, like absolutely, like is there something that needs to get figured out? Yeah, you bet. Like yeah, figure it out. But is the answer just well because they weigh twice as much and over 10 years and they did some magic math and said it's about $1,000. You need to pay about $1,000 a year in EV tax.
I remember we covered, they were looking in Texas at doing $400, and we figured out that gas cars actually only pay about $200 in state taxes.
Oh
And so it
wow.
would make sense
Yeah.
to, now there's state and federal. Okay. But as far as, because Texas wanted to add that for their own revenue.
Okay.
And I think they finally did only do it for $200, which seems about appropriate. I mean,
It makes sense, right? Yeah.
EVs should have some
You should. It
cost to that.
it makes sense. You're using the roads, you're driving on the bridges, you're doing everything like that. I mean, it's just part of it. That's how
But
bridges.
$1,000. Yeah. I mean, she even said in her thing, she released a statement saying EVs can weigh up to 3 times as much as gas powered cars. Now, if we take the Hummer EV, which weighs 9,000 pounds, okay, there's probably a gas car that does weigh 3,000 pounds. I don't know what it would be, but it'd have to be something like, a Mini Cooper.
I was thinking a teeny tiny
That's
little.
gas. Yeah. It'd have to be really a small car, and that's not even a reasonable comparison. um it's just I don't know, it's trying to make something that should be nonpartisan into a partisan issue by just you know the days of liberal elites and their expensive EVs getting a free pass are over. They're contributing to wear and tear on our roads, and they should be forced to pay their fair share in repairs just like the rest of us. What Deb doesn't know is here in Nebraska, I would bet most of your EV drivers are probably conservative, okay, and probably voted for her, okay. So that's a little disappointing, but um, you know, here in Nebraska, driving an EV isn't like a political choice. People drive it because most of them drive it because they're into tech and they really
Yeah.
like Elon. Okay. And a lot of them, the vast majority of people I know are um, people who came here that are in IT,
Mhm.
and they're all driving Teslas. It's really quite
There,
funny.
there are so many Teslas on the road around Nebraska and especially Omaha. We're in Omaha,
Mhm.
but it's so many. And as not just Teslas. Well, there's a lot of Teslas, but I'm starting to see more and more different brands, and it's great. And Omaha's built for it. Like you have to have a car here.
Mhm.
Public transport's not great. It's not walkable at all. You have to have a personal vehicle to get around, and it's not a real big city. You don't have to go very far, but you need a car to get there. And it's what a perfect place for an EV. You get around, you have to have a vehicle. You're just going 10, 15 miles a pop, like perfect use case for it.
Well, and I even look at people who we're talking about people living rurally in Nebraska.
Mhm.
They have to drive an hour to go get gas. I mean, it would make a whole lot more sense to have an EV and just charge it at home.
Yeah,
You
for
know, that,
putzing around and doing what you need to do. And I need
yeah,
a vehicle just to, yeah.
yeah. I mean, the Ford F-150 Lightning seems like the ultimate farm truck to me. I mean, it's not one of those vehicles that, like with a gas powered vehicle, you really need to put some highway miles on it because it's just better for the car,
Yeah, yeah, it's better
and the engine
running
the engine
around.
needs to stretch its legs. But EVs don't have that requirement. EVs can just run at 5 miles per hour if you need them to.
Mhm.
So there's a bit of a difference there, and operating on a farm, all that, it makes a lot more sense to have that. But it just is really disingenuous to think that our Nebraska
Well, just
senator put
blatantly
that out
wrong
there.
information and easily checkable information that you could have put out there to make a point, and it's you didn't have to make it up. I mean, the argument stands like you don't pay gas tax. They should have to pay their gas tax. Like why put in false numbers in there?
Yeah, I mean there should be something. Should be something. Anyways, um, wanted to talk about new data shows revolutionary change happening across the U.S. power grid. We never expected it would happen overnight. This is basically about the fact that renewables have jumped so quickly in the United States. So, people always talk about, oh, that car is powered by, coal or
Oh,
whatever. It's like, well, so we're not, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration,
yay. They're getting
yeah, and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, more than
Birch.
30% of the nation's utility scale electrical generation comes from renewable, such as solar, wind, biomass, geothermal, and hydropower. Does not include nuclear. It is now 30%. If all power plants in the country operate at full capacity, 30% of the energy would be a blend of those renewables. Expected to climb to 37% by 2037. That's a big damn jump.
Mhm.
79% of that is newly installed solar. Solar was 92% of all newly built energy capacity.
Wow.
That was for October, just
For
for
October.
October.
Okay.
Yeah. That month marked more than a year, 14 months in a row, in which solar has been the single biggest part of all new capacity generation in the United States. That's a pretty big deal. So this shows you there's not a whole lot of, coal-fired plants and things like that,
There hasn't
or
been
LNG.
a coal plant approved in 15 years, I bet, 20 years.
Oh,
I'd rather,
really?
yeah, one of the ones we have in Nebraska was one of the last ones built. I think, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I should check on that, but there really has not been new coal in a long, long time. It keeps getting shut down. Now, natural gas, on the other hand, goes up a lot. Just because it's system balance. You need something that's very fast acting because renewables change. The wind stops blowing, clouds roll over, stuff happens, storms come through, different things. So you need things that can fire up really quickly. And coal doesn't fire up really quickly. It's a
Oh,
big slow churn. Like once you turn it on, it runs for 2 years straight without turning off. But I mean, it's amazing. The coal plant. I mean, not that I'm necessarily pro coal, but like they are amazing feats of engineering that those things just run and run and run. And that's what the grid's dealing with. Boy, you had this hell of a workhorse over here that just ran and ran and ran and ran. And now you're replacing with things go up and down and up and down and up and down. So that's why they're putting in all the new natural gas because it can fire, in a couple minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and turn on and be at full capacity. Whereas everything else, like I mean, it's like boiling. It's literally boiling water. And those other, it takes a while. Like you have to heat everything up. That water has to get warmed up. All the different pieces of equipment have to get warmed up before you
I,
actually start producing steam.
about a month or so ago, I spoke to some guy who was here in town. He was setting up this, he called it a peaker
Mm-hmm.
installation over by like the Google data center.
Yep.
And I can't remember if he said it was diesel or LNG or whatever, but it was designed to all of a sudden, if there was a spike in energy needs,
Yep.
that it would be there, but it was really expensive electricity it generated. I mean, really expensive compared to other stuff, but it would make sure that if something failed with all of the renewables and all that, that they'd be able to get the power they needed because
100%.
they
That's
couldn't
yep.
shut those down.
That's exactly what the new units are coming on. It's you want the renewables to be the workhorse, but they're intermittent. Like the sun doesn't shine at night, the wind doesn't blow every day. So it's very intermittent source. So you have to have these things that fill in the gaps. And then the peakers are those last little ones on top where it's like
Mhm.
something happens, it's the hottest day of the year, hottest hour of the year kind of thing. We need a little bit more juice. All right, fire those up. Like they're ready to go. We can turn those things on. They're ready. But yeah, they're expensive. Diesel's really expensive to
Yeah,
run.
I don't remember what he said, but it was a number that honestly it boggled my mind on a cost per kilowatt. I mean, like if those places are normally paying probably a nickel a kilowatt or something
Mhm.
like that for being in Nebraska, they might be paying 7 cents. They're paying something cheap. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And but most likely Google probably owns a solar farm probably in Nebraska that probably trades energy along the net
Yep.
metering strategy or whatever. And I don't remember. It was in the dollars
Oh
though
yeah,
per
oh yeah.
kilowatt when that peaker system was on.
Well, those are the times. So different units, but you buy a unit of power in a megawatt, and it's like $30. On a normal market day, when there's no load and the wind's really blowing and it's
Mhm.
sunny, it can go negative. Sometimes, which is hard. It's market function, so
I think he
it's
said $1,500 was the number. I think he said.
yes, but there are like when it is a time of scarcity, when something happens, when a power plant trips offline, a storm takes out a bunch of transmission, it can go up that high. And just from a market function, it's calling for it and say, I will pay you that much money, turn your load on. I need it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's crazy how expensive it can get in times of scarcity.
yeah. Well, I remember some of that crap that happened in Texas when they had that
Yep.
massive snowstorm and they had all the problems and all the companies they could charge to the end customer what that difference was for the freak issues, and people were getting, you know, $1,000 electric bills and stuff like that for the
Yeah.
month. You
More,
know,
more, more than that. They were getting real, $7,000 bills in some cases.
Jesus, yeah,
Right.
that's just nuts.
I don't know. I sit in the middle on some of those things where it's, well, you benefited from dirt cheap prices for 4 or 5 years, and this was the risk. And the same hand, like, well, that's
Right, I get it.
that's not right. I don't want to see some homeowner, go belly up because of a power bill. But same hand, it's like you got a lot of benefit out of that when the market was good. Now the market turned on you.
Yeah.
That's the risk of taking that strategy.
Hmm. Yeah, and that does put that into some perspective. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about Tesla. So the first one, Tesla begins hiring in India after Modi meets with Musk. So Tesla has opened up positions to begin hiring in India as a potential entry into the country. Just 13 positions: sales advisors, operations managers, techs, and customer support in the Mumbai area. And Musk and Modi had met in Washington, D.C. Not immediately clear if the two had discussed Tesla's entry into Indian markets. There's been talk previously of Tesla moving into that market, um, but they would have to manufacture them there because India has a 100% um, tariff on automobile
On
imports.
any import, because I'm going to play dumb because I am dumb, but like I don't even know what the major car brands are in India. I have no
Tata,
idea. Uh,
Tata, Mahindra. I know Hyundai makes there's a few other big brands, but
that
Hyundai I
that
think is one of the
produced
large,
domestically in India.
yeah, that
Okay.
produced domestically and but Tata like owns Jaguar, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tata is a big brand. I remember seeing oh, Yogi was on here with us for a bit, but he took pictures. There was a Tata EV, and in sport mode, it could do 0 to 60 in like 8 seconds in sport mode. It's like that's not very fast for an EV.
I can get to 0 to 60 in 8 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just like, what the heck? I mean, like, how slow is it normally? That's really slow for an EV. But I think it only had like a 20 kilowatt hour battery, or or something like that. It was small, but it was designed for. But it was a sub $10,000 sub $10,000 um car. It was
It's
not
cheap and
expensive.
a little city vehicle, and yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't need to go that fast because the roads probably can't handle it,
yeah.
or the
Um,
traffic can't handle it.
yeah, so Suzuki, yep. Well, like I said, there's a few brands over there, so it'd be good if Tesla starts making over there. I mean, India's on the rise. They're going to become the next, obviously, the next superpower at some point. I mean, they've already developed a blue water navy. They're one of the few navies in the world that has 2 aircraft carriers. So it's
Wow.
just, yeah, domestically built. They're not like the Chinese who took what they take. They took a casino um, that they bought from the former Soviet Union. They had, what was it, a ship that was being built as an aircraft carrier when the Soviet Union fell was repurposed into a floating
Floating
casino.
casino.
Yeah, and the Chinese bought it and they turned it into an
Turned it
actual
back into
aircraft
an
carrier.
aircraft carrier.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, but it's still better than the Russian aircraft carrier. This is the same class. The one that's always being towed around by tugboats. But I've seen
Oh,
pictures of the Chinese aircraft carrier on the inside. It's like pristine. You know,
yeah.
like they've really immaculately
Just made it.
cleaned that thing, and it doesn't look anything like the Russian boat at all on the inside. They keep it immaculate, like a U.S. Navy ship would. So um, that's just a different thing. But yeah, I mean, India is going to be clearly the next
Oh yeah,
superpower in the
massive.
world. Yeah.
In India and Nigeria, I mean, those are the two in the next 30 years. I mean, Nigeria is going to be up to number 3, I think,
Well,
population.
in population,
Yeah.
but India is on a different rise. Everything from technology,
Oh, they're
their
nuclear. They've been a nuclear
economy,
power
yeah,
forever.
they're
Yeah.
nuclear. There's just a lot of things they have going on.
Yeah.
I think they're starting to solve some of the challenges of, I don't know. I'm not saying they're solving poverty, but I think they're figuring out some things for the people, that
Oh, I hope so.
help. But who knows? Who knows? But it's interesting to see that Tesla is making that move. Next, I want to talk about another Tesla topic, and this is the first public electric semi charging station. And
Ooh.
so, yeah, some of this I suspect. I'm suspicious this first picture is actually AI. Okay, I'm not 100% sure. This comes to us from Electric, but that could be a real image. But this is the idea here. So you got a supercharger on this side, or a mega charger, it's called, and there'd be another one. There's another
There's
one on
one
the
on
other
both
side.
sides, right?
So you're charging batteries on both sides of the
Mhm.
truck. So much like diesel trucks, when you pull into a filling station, you have tanks on each side of the
Mhm.
truck, and so they're filling both sides at the same time. You're doing the same thing here. Now, obviously, you're going to be charging that truck a lot longer than you would if you were filling it full of diesel. Okay, so it's a different kind of setup, but I wonder if I can expand this here, make this a little bigger. Trying to make this a little bigger image there. So this is showing all these different rows where you could have the trucks all
Trucks
parked
pull
in
right
here
through.
charging up, and then shows over here, you having a terminal here, for the truckers to go. There'd probably be, I suspect there'd probably be, restaurants, a gym, that kind of
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
I mean, like any Lowe's, or not Lowe's, Loves or
Loves.
Pilot, or super stations, those kind of things.
To me, I think the game is to um, Loves and a bunch of the others. They have that figured out, right? So the trucking. the truck stops along U.S. freeways are some of the top 100 largest private companies in the United States.
Hmm.
Okay, they have tremendous dollar volume. Those stores bring in incredible money.
Oh,
The restaurants are busy. I would just think it would be simpler than rather trying to compete with them.
just yeah.
Just work with them
Why
and
reinvent it? Just add them there. Add them there. You
yeah,
have the infrastructure. It's ready to go.
yeah, and it'd be easy enough to just to gradually replace those diesel stalls. But in this particular case, this is a lot more lanes than you would normally have at a regular truck stop. They'd normally probably only have maybe 6 bays. This
Mhm.
probably has 12, but still, you've got to have, and you go to those others, they also then have places for the trucks to go park and sleep,
Yeah.
right? So it's not just
Oh, it's
fueling up, and
when you think about it, where cross
those are
country truck
parks.
stops, there's nothing but space. I mean, there's a lot of land around them. So even if they have to expand, move things around, I
Mhm.
mean, it's fine. I mean, they'll figure out how to fit it in there.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of design,
Cool. It's
but
cool to see out there and actually, putting it out there as this is out in the world.
all right. So take a guess at where this first one's at.
The first, I'm going to guess it's between. Oh, I'm going somewhere in California.
Yeah,
But
no, it's in California, but we're talking like kind of
in the middle of Los Angeles?
in the middle of Los Angeles.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed. I was trying to think of like a route, like God, one of those like between like Las Vegas and Los Angeles, somewhere along that
Yeah,
route.
like
San
Palm Springs
Francisco.
or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, no, we're talking along the
right in the middle.
405.
Okay.
Yeah, the junction of the 405 and the 110. Yeah, I mean, man, you're going right through LA here. That's for sure. Yeah, that wouldn't have been where I would have guessed either.
No,
But
I was trying to think like, okay, what's one of those, back and forth routes in Los Angeles that you get a lot of truck traffic, or not Los Angeles, in California where you get a lot of truck traffic, not in the middle of the city.
yeah, I it is interesting to think about how much they're going to need to have in terms of additional power routed there to be charging semi trucks. Okay, because we talk about the challenges with supercharging cars
Mhm.
sometimes, how the Tesla supercharger setup actually draws more power than the supermarkets where they sit in the parking lot.
Yep.
I mean, this is going to be on a whole different scale. I mean, I don't know how much more juice it's pumping out at once, but I imagine what,
It's got
5x, 10x more than the
Oh yeah,
superchargers?
oh yeah, and especially when you're 12 bays. Holy cow! Like it's a lot, and that's the
And
downfall of being
and then
rural
two
too.
things at once.
That's yeah, that's crazy. It goes back to you got space though. I mean, you can put in
Mhm.
some standalone batteries. Shoot, you could put in some solar. But it's still that's a lot of power. That's a lot of
Yeah,
power.
I suspect they're going to have massive batteries
Yep.
there to store to help um, with alleviating the stress on the grid.
Hmm.
And they'll probably have solar as well, but the solar is just going to be feeding power to the batteries.
Yep.
Um,
Just
those
let
batteries
all
need to be
the
used
electrons go
alone.
in the pool and put some in, take some out.
All right, I wanted to talk. Last topic today is geothermal. Geothermal versus fossil fuels. Be careful what you wish for. This came from Clean Technica, and fossil fuel stakeholders thought they had a win-win when they boosted Trump back into office. Geothermal, though, energy is throwing off the shackles of the past as it's extending its reach across the country with a particular focus on pushing natural gas out of the power generation industry. Now, I've known people who've done geothermal heating and cooling for houses and stuff like that, but it doesn't quite keep up, on super hot or super cold days. It's great for all of the middle of the road times of the year, but probably 10% of the year, it doesn't quite work.
Mm.
Doesn't quite, it won't cool your house enough. It won't heat your house enough. Um, and have you ever studied geothermal much?
A little bit. I'm a little bit familiar with it, and that's what it is. From the energy standpoint, it's great. It's great. One wonderful use of it and keeps up, but there's a lot of that. And same with like heat pumps where people get out and say, hey, it just doesn't feel the same. It just I don't know. I don't know if I like it, what it means, and everything. So it's a lot of times it's just something to get used to, but it's also on the same hand, like a day like today where it's 0 degrees outside. I want that air coming out of my register to be warm. I want it to
Yeah.
feel warm against me, not just lukewarm. Oh, your house temperature stayed the same, and maybe it's not quite keeping up, but it needs to feel toasty where I'm at.
Right, I get that. So the startup Greenfire Energy expects EGS to fill the role normally played by fossil fueled power plants by delivering dependable 24/7 carbon-free baseload energy. The company is meeting the growing needs of industries such as data centers, military bases, and manufacturing. I just not sure how you deliver geothermal on that scale to be powering these large facilities, especially data centers, right?
I have seen a little bit on that, and from a power production standpoint, um, people are saying they can do it. Have I seen it in action? What's everything end up, but it doesn't take up a lot of footprint because you go down. That's you need certain cross sectional space, you need a certain amount of pipes, everything like that to get the energy transfer, the heat transfer you need out of something like that. But conceptually, from what I've seen, it's like if your numbers add up, sure, this looks like a great thing. But I'm with you. I don't know. That's if this is true, like why aren't we doing this everywhere right
Right.
now and solving all of our grid issues?
Well, so the article goes on to say that almost all of the accessible, naturally occurring geothermal resources are located west of the Rockies. So
Okay,
that could be a problem.
there you go.
But
Okay.
it says in the US alone, it is thought that geothermal energy could capture enough natural heat resources to power more than 65 million homes. Now, the folks I know that have done geothermal, they did it as like a heating and cooling
Heating,
system.
cooling. Yeah, yeah.
They
No, this
weren't
this
like,
is a new concept. This is power generation through geothermal. Yeah.
let me see. They anticipate installed capacity will rise from its lowly state of 16.8 gigawatts globally to 28 gigawatts within the next few years and up to 100 gigawatts by 2050.
Yeah.
You know, that's getting
Creeping
there.
along. So
Yeah, that's a
when
creeping
I've looked
along.
at it before, I thought of places like Hawaii, where every island's a volcano, right?
Right,
Surely like that, and it's isolated and expensive to ship fuel in. Like maybe it has something to do with the oceans or sea levels, but boy, for a use case, like you're sitting on a volcano, like there's got to be
right.
some geothermal
Thermal.
heat coming
Yeah.
off that.
Well, they have gotten rid of coal in Hawaii.
Yeah,
So, they have managed to do that. Because Tesla runs the big battery farm
yeah,
there
yeah.
in Hawaii that basically replaced the last coal plant. Let's see. Um, see if there's any more information. It's an interesting concept to see. Maybe it'll have better legs than hydrogen. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just always disappointed in
It's
hydrogen.
once like sure, if you can drill a big hole in the ground and power your house from it, like let's do it. Like everybody should be doing that. But I have not seen it scalable or practical, or it's something's not clicking in my head with how that could actually get pulled off.
Yeah, you'd think it would be easy enough to have a like 60-foot hole dug down just like this underneath every house, and it would somehow bring that temperature up from down below, whether it's probably around 60 degrees or something like
Mhm.
that. Because I know, like in caves, aren't they a constant like 56 or something like that? But I'm just saying, at this time of year, if we had 60-degree heat coming up from the ground, that would aid. It still wouldn't make our house warm, but it would certainly ease things up. And then in the summertime, having 60-degree temperature come up, that would certainly help with cooling.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see, but they're just talking about power generation.
Yep.
So I am really curious how that's going to play out in the
I
future.
don't know. That's where it's just something's cool. I love it. I love the idea, but it's just not clicking in my head at this point in time.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see more. And I guess, because we're in Nebraska, and it seems to be more, like you're saying, Hawaii,
Yeah.
and the West Coast seem to be more conducive to it. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. Good show.
Mhm.
And Mike will be back with me on Wednesday. I'll be back with Bill tomorrow. Folks, thanks for watching and have a great day.